Recording. Okay.
Hey, Shalom. Good job. Proud of you. Okay. Shkech.
Okay. Let's go to Ayin Dalid Amud Beis on the top. I'm sorry, Ayin Gimel Amud Beis on the top. 73. 73, the top line. Yeah. B. We thank Hashem that we're able to learn Torah every day. In the source of our learning, we should have the Beis Hamikdash immediately. The last thing that we said was like one line in. We said before that Rava Bar Huna says that if the child that was found in a train station or something on the side of the road, whatever it was circumcised. Yeah.
So what would be the comparable thing?
The caravan station.
Or an airport.
In the airports. So in the caravan station or whatever it was, in the market, was circumcised, so he's not considered an asufi. He doesn't have that status. Why? I'm sorry. We're talking about now that he has no father. We don't know the father or the mother. So we assume that the mother was caring for the child by circumcising the child and putting the child in a place that people would find him. That was her care. For whatever reason, she couldn't take care of him, but it wasn't that she wanted him to die. If she wanted him to die, then we assume that it's a mamzer. But if she wanted him to survive, then we assume that it was a kosher child. That's the basic premise. So the next case says, right, we'll see that in a moment, yes. Mishalti hadmiya means if the bones are straight. I guess the midwife has to take care of that. That's not considered asufi because they see the care that they wanted the child to survive. So why are they giving up the child? Whatever, they're too poor or something. Shayef mishka. There's another comment here from Rashi. I'll leave that out for now. Shayef mishka, if he's anointed with oil, umale kuchla. Not anointed. He's it's not anointed. He's smeared with oil. Anointed is what you do for a king. He's malikuchla, or if he has like a type of eye makeup on to make him look pretty. This child probably, we won't say pretty, we'll say cute. Rami chumri, if he has this sort of medicine capsule that's hanging from him. Tali piska, if he has this type of amulet. Tali kameya. There's another type of amulet, but that's made out of herbs. All of these, you see that there was care for the child. It wasn't considered an asufi, a child that was being given up because it was a mamzer. Tali bedikla, let's say the child is in some sort of basket hanging from the tree, palm tree. If an animal could reach the child, then it probably want the child to die. Because the animal could reach it. It was above the heights of the animal, so then that was considered concern for the child. If it's on a tree that has like demons hanging around it, so if it's close to the city, then then it's considered dangerous for the child. How could they put him on a tree that demons are going to come over to that tree? So it must be that they're trying for the child to die. And if not, then they were protecting the child, and it's not considered an asufi. So let's see you find this child in the shul. So if the shul is near the city, and a lot of people come to the shul, then it's not considered an asufi. You left the child there, they're hoping someone's going to take care of it, and it's not a concern about the demons that hang out in the synagogues. Knishta is a gathering place. Beis it's the Aramaic translation of a Beis Knesset. The Hebrew word, the Hebrew word Beis Knesset gets translated into Aramaic as Beit Knishta. So yeah, the actual Hebrew word for a shul is Beis Tefillah. Beis Tefillah, we say in the prayers.
In Hebrew, it's
Beit Knesset is a Hebrew translation of the Aramaic Beit Knishta.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. No, that would be something else. This would be a Beit Knesset is a synagogue.
Basically, generally how it's called.
No, in the Bible it's called Beit Tefillah. In the Mishnah it's called Beit Knesset, and in Aramaic it's called Beit Knishta. They assume that the Mishnah's Beit Knesset is a Hebrew translation of the Aramaic. In the time of the Mishnah, they were talking Aramaic, even though the Mishnah is in Hebrew. That's the assumption. Okay, anyway, Beit Knishta smichta l'masav. If it's not close to the city, or if it doesn't have a lot of people that congregate there, then yesh b'misum sufi. Then it has the problem that it could be it's a sufi that they put it there because the demons, they wanted it to die. Amar Meimar. Meimar says Hypera sufli. Yesh ba yishum asufi. If you find the baby on the place where they would throw the date pits, the animals could eat the date pits. Date pits are very hard. Humans don't eat them, but the animals, I think, would chew on them. And if you find a baby together with this pile of date pits, then that's considered a sufi. What was the issue with the date pits? There's mazik in there. There's demons that hang out around the date pits. Good morning. Charifta denara. It's funny because it's date pits. It's the pit. They would dig a pit where they would put the date pits in. Right? In English, they have the two pits. Pit for a pit, right? So charifta denara. Let's say it was in a basket, like Hillel mentioned, Moshe. It was in a basket in the water, but it was in the path where the boats go. You know, the boats also have some traffic signals. They have lanes where they have to go. So if it's in that path, they put it there because they're hoping someone on the boat is going to take him up and take care of him. Pashri, if it's on the side. Now pashri means because it's on the side where the snow melts. And pashri, I think, means melts. It's on the side of the water, so that's not where people go. It's just like in the mush or the marsh or whatever. So yesh mishum asufi, then that's considered asufi. Then they're just left and they abandoned him. If he's on the side of the road, mishum asufi, then they wanted someone to find him. If he's in the middle of the road, then yesh mishum asufi, then they wanted him to probably get crushed. Amar Rava. Rava says during a time of famine, then he's not considered an asufi. Why? Because during the time of famine, there was nothing wrong with the child. The people couldn't take care of him. Right? There wasn't enough food. Gemara asks, when does Rava's statement really make a difference? What is Rava referring to? See where we are, Tivya? We're on Ayin Gimel Amid Beis. Hey, on which case? Why are you talking about that it was put literally in the middle of the road? And we said if he's literally in the middle of the road, he's going to get crushed. And it was like a totally abandoned child. They didn't care if he survived. So then during a time of a famine, I did the Shnei Rav and Katalei. What do they mean? During the time of the famine, they're going to kill him. They want him to survive. They don't want to kill him. Maybe they don't have enough food for him, but they're not putting him in the middle of the road. Ella Atzidir Shas Rabba. It must mean that Rava was talking about they put the baby on the side of the road, and it's a time of a famine. And Rava is saying that at a time of a famine on the side of the road, is not considered a Sufi because they want someone to find him and to take care of him. So my area Shnei Rav, and then why does it have to be a time of a famine? And even if it's not a famine, side of the road we anyway said was not considered a real abandoned child. It was just they didn't know how to take care of him. They put him in a place which would be protected. Elakiyat my Rava, rather Rava's statement is going on the following. Ahadam Rav Yehuda Amar Rababa, Amar Rav Yehuda Bar Zavdi, Amar Rav. Bunch of names. Was Rava said in the name of Kitma de Rava. When was Rava's statement was referring to Rav Yehuda said the name of Rababa, the name of Rav Yehuda Bar Zavdi, in the name of Rav. It's referring to a statement that we have. It says it goes like this: Kolzman Shabashuk. While the child is still in the marketplace, then, in other words, still in that basket where they put him, father and the mother can show up and say, that's my child. Nesaf minashuk. Once someone took him, but then they're not believed to say that this is my child. It's too late. They're only believed while he's still in the market or in the train station or something like that. My time. What's the reason? Rava says because once he's considered an Asufi, then you can't come in and start correcting that and saying no, he's actually my child. But Rava, however, Rava says, and this is what we were looking for, but in time of a famine, the time of a famine, then the parents can show up even later, even after he's been taken in by someone, and they can say that he's my child. Yeah. Huh? As if there's two witnesses. As if there's two witnesses. Right? Because in the time of a famine, there would be more babies that were left. And the sages didn't want them all to become puzzle. So they extended the time when parents are allowed to say who the child really is. In a regular case, if it's not a time, once a child is abandoned, the child is considered a mamzer or suffix mamzer. Why they abandon the child? But because of the time of a famine, we don't have the same extent of the concern, and it was more common, so they wanted to. Number 19. A Sufi has gone about him. Once a child was gathered in, he became classified as a Sufi, like an unidentified child found in the street. To change this out, two witnesses are needed to verify that he's legitimate, or the parents. It doesn't say other parents, but that's what we're learning. So the parents would be, in the time of a famine, it could be the parents. Okay. Amar Rav Chizda. Rav Chizda says, Chizda is the father-in-law of Rava. Shleisha, remember that? Rava's daughter wanted to, Rav Chizda's daughter wanted to marry, Rav Chizda asked his daughter who would you like to marry. Yeah, there were two students, this one or that one. She said both of them. Oh. One of them was Rava. Rava said he'll go second. Anyway, Rav Chizda says, Shleisha nemanim la'alter. There's three people that are trusted only immediately, not later on. Elohein. These are not three people, three cases. First is a Sufi. A Sufi, the parents are trusted immediately. That means before the child was collected by someone. Kaya, by the midwife. The midwife can testify which baby was which, as we'll see in a second. And then there's another thing when it comes to Anida, that a woman can say that the blood came from her, or something, but only immediately. We'll see in a minute. Asufi Adamran, the case of Asufi we just said, right? The case of Asufi, the child that's gathered, that's found in a marketplace or something, the parents can only testify that it's their child immediately, before the child was taken in by someone. Or if it's a time of famine, that was different. That's what Rabbi's Chiddush was. Chaya, what's the case of the midwife that's able to testify? The Tanya was taught in a Braisa, Chaya ne'emena slema zeh yatsa rishon, v'zeh yatsa sheni. Let's say there's twins. So which one is the firstborn? Firstborn means it's going to get a double portion. in the inheritance. So the midwife is able to say that this one was the firstborn. She's trusted to say which one was first. That's only if she didn't leave the room and return. But if she left the room and then she returned, then she's not believed. Yeah. What was the story? And remember in Gluckle of Hamlin, she had a baby together in the same night as her mother-in-law had a baby. The midwife mixed them up. Remember, there was something going on over there. I don't remember the details. But, yeah. Remember that the note the child brought to school said, please excuse Maishala for not coming yesterday. His grandmother had a baby and he had to watch his aunts and uncles. Yeah. Yeah, it could be. It could be. Could be. I mean, you hope that they don't. And talking about the, but
now they put like tags like
yeah. So Rabbi Eliezer Aimer, the people, so they make mistakes. Rabbi Eliezer says, I'm the Namenes. Rabbi Eliezer is a little stricter over here. Rabbi Eliezer says if she's still in her position, then she's believed. But if she's not in her position, then she's not believed. Might be now, what's the difference if she left to return? There's position, not position. It could be nayo the hadar ape, the hadar apa. If she turned around, according to Rabbi Eliezer, even if she turned around, she's not believed. She has to still be like facing the child, facing to know which one's the first part. Okay. We have two of the cases that Rav Chisda told us are only believed right away. The Sufi, the baby that was abandoned, the parents are believed only right away. Second one was the midwife is only believed right away. Well, what's the third one? What's the case where she exempts her friends? The Tanan, it was taught in the Mishnah. There's three women that are in one bed. And they find blood under one of them. So the blood would be a dam nida, would be blood from a nida. Okay. But the question is, which one was it from? So it says, Kulan Tmeyas, all of them are Tame. We don't know which one it's from. We assume that they're all Tame. But if one of them checks herself and finds that she's the one that's Tame, this is a rule called Toilin Hakilkul B'Makulkul. We assume that the problem came from the one that has a problem. Right? That's an assumption. I'm sorry,
Quick question. In all of these cases, well, there are a lot of questions to ask about this stuff, but in all of these cases where a child is found, we're talking about an abandoned baby,
right?
Presumably where the majority of people, in a town where the majority of people are Jewish.
Yeah.
So there's an assumption that he's Jewish. Okay, the baby is found abandoned. Why not just invoke the principle, I forget what it is, called the Meforish.
Yeah.
You know, why not just invoke that principle that the majority of babies are kosher, or not a Sufi, or not Shtuki?
Right. It may come up it's going to come up a little bit on the next page, but I think because he's abandoned, I think there's a reyesa. I think there's.
What does that mean? What does reyesa mean?
Reyesa means that there's a problem with. In a regular case, we would say yeah, but because if someone is abandoning a baby, it looks like there's something more that's a problem. Yeah.
But the Gemara is given the reasons for the abandonment. There's not, for example, there's not enough food.
Right, and that's why in those cases it's more lenient. But I think, if I remember correctly, there was a concept of trey ruby. You needed to have the majority of the people, the locals, plus the majority of the travelers. Remember such a thing. If all of them were kosher, if the majority of both the majorities were kosher, then it was more lenient. Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah. This is it takes us back to Ksubas. that Gemara over there, which is going to come up on the next page again. The Ksubas Daf Yud Gimel was when you see a woman pregnant and you don't know who it was from, and then you have to start like looking into it, and who do you follow? There's the majority of the people and all of that stuff.
Rabbi, the baby is up to a certain age.
I'm not sure how old. Yeah, I'm not sure. Yeah, I'm assuming the whole time as I'm learning this that it's a baby in a basket, but I'm I'm not sure. Yeah.
Would it be interesting if the baby's not? Let's say the baby's less than 8 days old, so they didn't have the opportunity to do
Right.
this. So it could be or it could not be. So then that's when that rule would come into play, if the majority is Jewish or not.
Yeah, we're talking about here. Our concern isn't the Jewish part. Our concern is the mamzerus part. Yeah. Yeah, baby that's not Jewish, you just convert. That would be that's an easy fix. Mamzerus part is hard to fix. That's right. Well, what happens now? But kachas me'eminim tmeya. So he tmeya v'kolontaris. Okay, that's the rule. Amar Rav Chisda. Rav Chisda says Shabbat katz mikshir beses. Rav Chisda says that she has to examine herself immediately. Shir veses. The Gemara Nida says that she takes a cloth that was already on the windowsill or on the ledge, and she does a quick examination. That's the amount of time that we could say that the blood that was found came from her. Otherwise, we'll say that maybe it came from the other one. I mean, right? So it has to be like very quickly after the first blood was found, that she examined herself and found this blood. Okay, that's the third case where we say that she's only believed immediately. I'm sorry, Tana Rabbana was taught in a brisa. The menes chaya laimar, the midwife is trusted to say zeh kayin, zeh levi, zeh nasin, v'zeh mamzer. This is in the maternity ward. You have there a kayin, a levi, a nasin, which means a gibbonite, and a mamzer, and the midwife is trusted to say all of them. That's only if no one protested. But if there was a protest, then we don't trust her. I think I remember in Glickle of Hemel, I think one of them said, "This is not my baby." When the midwife brought the baby to the nurse, even though, like, how do you tell the difference back then? They didn't have like fingerprints or whatever or something like that. And you just look at the baby. It says, "No, but the mother knew if there was the baby or not." If there's no one protesting, that's when the midwife is What type of protest are we dealing with? If there's one person that's protesting, so then we know we don't trust one person. It must be that there was two people protesting. So it's two against the midwife, then the two wins. Really, it could be that it's only one person against the midwife. And when the Rabbi Yochanan say that it needs to be two, that's only if there was a chazaka already. There was an assumed status. But in this case, no one knew anything, right? There was no status at all. Everything is coming from the midwife. So on that, even one person can protest, and then we don't trust the midwife. You would have a doubt then of who it is. It would be a complicated situation. You have to make assumptions. If there was a one was a mamzer and one was a kayin and one was that, we wouldn't have clarity. Okay, now it says it takes us to the first page of Bab Metzia. Neman balamekach lemacharti lazein macharti. Case over here, the Gemara is going to explain is where there's two people that are trying to buy an item. One of them, the Gemara will say in a minute, paid, and the other one threw the money at the owner, saying, "I'm paying also." Wow. Now, they each want this item, so they're each claiming that I paid. The owner doesn't remember the seller doesn't remember which one was willingly and which one was against his will. Right, that's what it's going to say. Anyway, it says over here that the seller, he's trusted to say, I sold it to this one, I didn't sell it to that one. When is he trusted? That's only if he's still holding the item in his hand and he has to give it to the person. But if it's not in his hand, so where is the item? It's in the hands of both of them. They're fighting over it. Like Shnai Mechsim Batalis. Two people are holding on to a talis, to the edges of the talis, they're pulling it. And they're saying, it's mine. What do you mean? You sold it to me. Another one saying, no, he sold it to me. So then, you can't, why don't you go ask the guy that sold it? It's too late. 1 second, but who paid for it? Let's see whoever paid for it. Black Friday, right? So it's like so he took the money from both of them. He says that one of them paid me willingly and one of them was against my will. I don't remember which one was which.
Wouldn't that be the first one?
Each claiming that they took it first, that they paid and they took it first.
There's two things. One that he didn't want to sell to him, and one that he doesn't know who paid it by force.
Right. Well, he's selling it to the guy that paid him, that he took the money from willingly.
I'm
like
saying
an
if somebody's a couple of salespeople. But wouldn't the acquisition make the difference?
Yeah, they each picked it up at the same time.
Whoever pays the most gets.
Yeah, that's what he should do. He should say, "Well, I'll." But the guy, the real owner, says, "Why should I have to pay more now to get it? I already paid you, and I bought it."
So then you go with him. He's the true owner.
Another guy saying the same thing. Yeah.
Let them sit outside for a while, and then they like, "Oh, who was the first one?"
Yeah. You'll see that in a moment. The judge is trusted to say that this person was innocent and this person was guilty. Well, Kumar says, that's only while they're still standing there. Once they left, it's too late. You don't trust the judge anymore. The Gemara says, 1 second. But who's holding the document that has the verdict written in? We're talking about that we lost the document. Lost the paperwork. So now you have to trust the judge. The Gemara says, why do you have to trust the judge? Let him say their claims again, and we'll see who was right. Talking about a case where it wasn't paskin based on their claims. For example, was a person that said, my possessions are going to go to someone by the name of Tuvia. And there were, it's from the Gemara. And there were two Tuvias that were relatives of this person. And they were both friends and neighbors, whatever. So the Dayan had to imagine which one would have been closer for the person to have given it to him. Yeah. And it wasn't based on clear evidence. So if you redo the case, it may come out exactly the opposite. You can't just redo the case. If it's a case that's based on claims, so we know what the claim is, whatever the halacha is going to be. But here it was called shuda dedaini. It's like based on the educated guess of the judge. Amar Rav Nachman says shleishin emanim al b'char. There's three people that are trusted that someone is a firstborn child. Elohein Chaya, the midwife, we said already. Aviv, the father. Ve'imai, and also the mother. Chaya is la'alter. The midwife is only immediately. She can't show up later and say that one's the firstborn. Imai kol shiva. The mother is trusted the first 7 days of the baby. Why only the first 7 days? Because the father is not around really. In the first 7 days, the father doesn't really know what the baby looks like. He wouldn't be able to tell. There are two babies. Aviv is li'olam, but the father is always trusted after that. After the 7 days, yeah. After the bris.
Yeah.
The Tanya was taught in a Raisa Yaker. Says he recognizes, that's based on the verse. If he wants to recognize the child from the wife that he hates or something. If we tell it, he has to recognize the child of the one that he hates, even though he wants the other one to be the firstborn. That's the psukim that they're talking about. But it says Yakiren al acherim, he makes it known to others. Mikanamar Rabbi Yehuda says from this Nemanam Adam Leimer, a person is trusted to say Zebni Bechar, this is my son, he's the firstborn. He's allowed to say also if the child has a blemish, the child is a chalal. And the Chacham say that he's not trusted to say that he's a chalal. How do you know if he's a chalal? I guess you would need other proof. You can't show up later and say any time and say that this child is a chalal if we don't have that information.
Excuse me, do the Meforshim say what is the source for these presumptions that the Rabbanim are making? That a mother should be trusted up to 7 days for whatever reason. After that, she doesn't know or she can't be trusted. I mean,
yeah, that's a good question.
Where is this coming from?
Yeah, I didn't look through the commentaries yet, but maybe you have in the notes something. You have in the notes why about the mother being trusted. Rashi says the father is not believed immediately and only after 7 days. And the Rambam says the father is believed immediately as well. The Taz says, I'm quoting from the notes over here, that Rashi also agrees the father is believed immediately if he insists that he knows which. But Rashi means only it's not expected that he will know. Okay. Why the mother is believed during the first 7 days, the Taz explains this too is a rabbinic ordinance. Just as the rabbis decreed that a midwife would be believed because there is generally no one else who knows, so too there's generally no one other than the mother who can identify the Bachar during the first 7 days. Or once 7 days have passed, it can be expected the father will recognize the Bachar. Since the father's identification is biblically valid, the rabbis saw no reason to perpetuate the mother's special credibility, and they allowed the matter to revert to the biblical standard under which only the father has special credibility to establish the Bachar. That's interesting. That's your question.
Yes.
They're quoting the Taz in Ebenezer. Yeah.
I think
Really, all that we could be talking about here is identical twins. Otherwise, there's no question.
Right.
I mean, if you don't have identical twins, who cares if the midwife goes out and comes back? You know, she.
Right.
Right. Whatever. So it's biblical that the father is the one who.
Right. Based on the pasuk of Yaakov.
Huh.
Yeah.
I think the baby could also change making those first 7 days about, for example, I was born very dark because I stayed drunk.
Interesting. So the skin looks darker.
Yeah, it's kind of like when you get something in the oven, like extra.
Yeah. Full term is if the full term the baby's a little darker. Is that otherwise they come out lighter?
I was more than.
Rashi before has another thing which I skipped. I don't want to talk about it, but talks about the skin of the baby. What turns the skin light? Anyway, okay. Abba Shaul shtuki beduki. Abba Shaul calls the shtuki him beduki, that the investigated or someone that needs to be investigated. Well, my beduki, what does it mean investigated? Ilema shabayt k'masimai, that you can ask the mother. The shtuki is someone that we don't know who the father is. It's not an asufi. Asufi is you don't know who the mother is. You don't know the mother is or the father. Shtuki is you just don't know the father. So Abba Shaul is saying that you can ask the mother. She says that the person that is the father of this child is a kosher person. He's not a mamzer, and we're going to trust her according to Abba Shaul. Come on, who says that we trust the woman to say who the person is that she was with? Come on, Rabbi Gamliel. It must be Rabbi Gamliel. It's the opinion of Rabbi Gamliel. So why do we need to say this over here? Why does Abba Shaul need to say this? We already learned this in Ksubas. Daf Yud Gimel, that famous Gemara of the Tanan. There's a Mishnah. If the woman, a single woman, is pregnant, and they say to her, what's going on? Who is this? Who's the father of this? Amr Lahem, she says, it's from such and such a person, and he's a kayan. So she's claiming that the child is kosher. Well, she's claiming two things actually. She's claiming that she's kosher to marry a kohen because she didn't live with the mamzer, and she's also claiming that the child's kosher. Rabbi Gamliel, Rabbi Elazar, and Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar say we trust her. Rabbi Shuaim, let me piana chayin. And we know that Allah is like Rabbi Gamliel. So why do we need Abba Shaul now to show up and start telling us stuff? Could have just said over there that and v'chein amar Abba Shaul. Could have said Abba Shaul also agrees with him. Well, the Gemara answers. Rabbi Gamliel and Rabbi Elazar are only talking about making her kosher to eat truma, that she's still a kosher woman to marry a Kohen, that the person that she was with was not invalid. But what about the child? The child has no status, original status. We don't know anything about the child. So Abba Shaul says that we trust regarding the child as well. According to Rabbi Gamliel, the child would still be in doubt. This Gemara, this answer that we're saying right now, that Abba Shaul is a chiddush over Rabbi Gamliel, only fits with that opinion back over there in Ksubas that says that even according to Rabbi Gamliel, that says that she's kosher, but the child is not. But the other opinion over there says that if she's kosher, then automatically the child's kosher. Then Abba Shaul mayas lashmin, and then we know already the child's kosher. Rabbi Gamliel said the child's kosher, that we trust her. Why do we have to have Abba Shaul over here? Umar says the Abba Shaul adifim mid Rabbi Gamliel. Abba Shaul is telling us more than Rabbi Gamliel. If it would only be from Rabbi Gamliel, Havamina Hasam Drev Ksheir Metzla. You hear the Rabbi Naftali over there. Why do we say that we trust her, and we also trust regarding the child? Because most of the people for a single woman are acceptable for her to marry. She's a single woman. She could marry anyone. Well, it's out of wedlock. She didn't get married, but it doesn't mean that she's invalid or the child's invalid. But let's say the majority of people are puzzled for her. Two examples of this would be either she's in a city where most people are puzzled, or the more probable example is that she's a betrothed woman. She's a mamzer, then we have no suffix. We know who the mother has to be a kosher woman. We're talking about now that we don't know who the father is. So, but if we say that she's betrothed to a person, now the majority of men are prohibited to her because she's already betrothed. She only has one person that she could be with. Who's that? Her husband. So, and she claims that it was from the husband, so we trust her. That's what we're saying over here. Even though it wasn't a marriage. If she's married, then of course we trust her. Then we assume it's from the husband. But here they're living separate, right? She's only betrothed. It's like engaged, right? It's not but it's halachically married. Just like. So Abba Shaul comes and tells me that we trust her even in that case. According to Rabbi Gamliel, we would not trust her. Amar Rava halachik Abba Shaul, and Rava says halachik Abba Shaul that we trust her regarding her and regarding the child. Okay, Mishnah says, all the cases of people that have problems getting married into the congregation. Why? Because they're a mamzer or an asufi or a shtuki or any of those problems. They're allowed to marry each other. They can't marry into the congregation, but they can marry each other. Well, that's kind. Rabbi Yehuda says no. They can't marry each other. We're going to see exactly what Rabbi Yehuda is referring to. It's going to be a nice Gemara about this. Rabbi Eliezer Aimer. Now on the side of the Gemara, it says that it's not Rabbi Eliezer, it's Rabbi Elazar ben Shmuah. He has some proofs for that. The side is it's Rabbi Yeshaya Pick Berlin. Yeah, he was a very interesting person. His comments are added into the Maseres Shas. When you see in the Maseres Shas brackets, so then that's a comment from Rabbi Yeshaya Berlin. not Isaiah Berlin, even though it's the same name. Isaiah Berlin was a descendant of Chabad Chassidim, not Chabad Chassidim, descendant of the Alter Rebbe, the philosopher. Anyway, this is someone else. This is Rabbi Shai Berlin. Rabbi Yehuda is Rabbi Eliezer, Rabbi Lazar. He says, "Omer vadain bevadain." If they're both of them are definitely mamzerim, then mutter, then it's permissible. They each have the same level of prohibited, so then it's fine. Vadain besveikan. Let's say it's one that's definitely a mamzer with a suffix, which means a shtuki or a sufi. Sveikan bevadain. Talking male, female here, so it says the same thing again. Besveikan, or let's say two shtukis or two asufis. So that he says is asur. Because how do you know if this one is a doubt, but maybe it's really kosher child, and this one is a doubt, and maybe it's really not kosher, so they can't get married because the doubt. This one may be correct, and this one may be not. So they can't marry. Two doubts can't get married. Be'elohein sveikas. What are the doubts? Shtuki asufi v'kuti. Throws in kuti, which we'll see later in the Gemara. What's going on? Okay.
Those doubts could be born to an Israel.
Two-way.
Could marry an Israel.
Not according to Rabbi Elazar. It's only according to the other opinions. Yeah, Rabbi Elazar is going to say that each doubt you have to take him both ways. Okay.
I'm going to bring you the book the references.
Oh, which book is that? Oh, Glickle. My Kula Yisur, it's a good book. My Kula Yisur Lava Bekal. So few good books. You have to take advantage of them.
Your good book is from within what, 100 years ago?
When was this written?
A long time ago.
No, it's in the 1600s.
Oh, it's I know it's old.
So, what does the Mishnah mean when it says anyone that's prohibited to marry into the congregation? The Mishnah starts off, they're allowed to marry each other. Are we talking about the cases that we said in the last Mishnah? A mamzer, nasin, the Gibeonites and the shtukis, those babies that we find, where they get silenced. The mother said, when the child says, "Daddy," the mother silences him. We learned that in the last Mishnah. That they're allowed to marry each other. Why is the Mishnah repeating it? It's not the style of the Mishnah to just repeat the halacha that we learned in the last Mishnah. Another question. Rabbi Yehuda Iser, what does it mean, Rabbi Yehuda Iser? Rabbi Yehuda prohibits. Hey, which case is he prohibiting? Are you saying that he says that a mamzer can't marry a shtuki and a sufi? That means a definite mamzer can't marry a doubt. I have a problem with this. Because if you read a little further, Rabbi Lazar says, Rabbi Lazar, is asur. That's the opinion of Rabbi Lazar. So if that's the opinion of Rabbi Lazar, that means that it's not the opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. That means Rabbi Yehuda disagrees with that. So what's going on? What does it mean Rabbi Yehuda says that it's asur? We come up with a good solution. We know from a brisa that we had before that Rabbi Yehuda holds a machlekes Rabbi Yossi and Rabbi Yehuda. Rabbi Yossi says that a convert is allowed to marry a mamzer. Rabbi Yehuda says a convert is not allowed to marry a mamzer. So what does it mean over here that Rabbi Yehuda Oiser is talking about something that we didn't even mention over here, but we're talking about a ger is not allowed to marry a mamzer. It's Rabbi Yehuda's view. Mamzeres. A ger can't marry a mamzeres. So midi ger be mamzeres ktani. Does that say that in the Mishnah? No, this is like when you know one thing, so everything is like, well, that's the one thing that, yeah. It doesn't say that. There was a, Solomon Maimon. Solomon Maimon was an apostate Jew, but he wrote an autobiography. He visited Alter Rebbe. It was an interesting person. He was a philosopher. I think Kant said about him, there's only one person that understands my writing, and it's that Jew. He said he was studying medicine, but this is what he wrote in his autobiography. he didn't really know a lot. So someone would tell him have a pain, and so he only knew like one disease. He said it must be you have a pain in the hand also. You have like a headache. They said no, I don't have a pain in the hand. They said well, it's gonna come. We only know like okay. Anyway, we know one opinion of Rabbi Yehuda. The Gemara is trying to the Gemara is trying to say that that's that opinion. It doesn't fit because we didn't say that in the Mishnah. Anyway, Midi Germa Zeres Tani Kolisin Lava Bekal Tani says anyone that's prohibited to marry into the congregation, which is not a convert. A convert's allowed to marry a Jewish person. Amar Rav Yehuda, so Rav Yehuda is explaining Rabbi Yehuda. Yeah, Rav Yehuda Bar Yecheskel is explaining Rabbi Yehuda Bar Rabbi Loi, the Tana. Hachikam, this is what he means. Kol Osim Lavi Bekal Kahuna. Anyone that's not allowed to marry a Kohen. Aha. So they are allowed to marry a mamzer, and Rabbi Yehuda says no. That could fit. It's a good shot. My Neil, who's not allowed to marry a Kohen? A convert, right? Now we add in over here something that is not necessary to be said, but the Gemara says we're talking about a convert that's under a convertess, a girl that's under 3 years old. Now, if she was over 3 years old, then there's two problems why she can't marry a Kohen. One problem is that she wasn't born Jewish, and we have a verse in the prophets in Yecheskel. It says Kiyim Besulam Mizera Beis Yisrael, that a Kohen is supposed to marry someone that was born Jewish. That's one verse. Then there's a second problem because she grew up in a society that's promiscuous society, and she's already 3 years old. So we have a doubt that maybe she was the non-Jewish person lived with her. Under 3 years old, we don't have that doubt. Over 3 years old, we do have that doubt. So we're adding in over here that a Geiris that's under 3 years old is also prohibited to marry the Kohen. The like Reb Shimon ben Yochai, not like Reb Shimon ben Yochai that says that it's kosher, and Mutarin Lavi Zebazeh, they are permissible to marry one another, a mamzer or not, and comes along Rabbi Yehuda and says that it's prohibited. It's missing that in there, but that's the point. Now, Rabbi Yehuda would forbid this. The Gemara says, why do you have
Ezekiel,
I'm sorry? In Yecheskel.
but Yecheskel there says things that we don't pass, and like it says that regular Kohen can't marry a widow.
Right. Yeah, that's a complicated discussion. I forget where we explained that. I think it was a Gemara Menachos that went through those problems, the contradictions there. Yeah. So, but nevertheless, we're taking that one point out of that. We didn't throw out the whole thing. You have to explain how it works.
When they're saying three up to an inclusive of 3 years, and the Lashon is Bachas Mishloshan and V'yom Echad. I never noticed that before. Have we had that before when they add an extra day so that you know it's
It does that. It does that. It means Shalosh Shana V'yom Echad means that they passed the
3
birthday.
years, but it can't be a day.
Right. What it's negating is that
Over
in the
3
third
years.
year,
Still good.
it's 2 years old. It's saying Kapitel Gimel.
Right.
If the girl is saying Kapitel Gimel, it doesn't mean that she's 3. It has to be Shalosh Shana V'yom Echad. Be the third birthday.
I think we have that in Menachos.
Yeah.
Because we start from 0, right?
No, I know. Some people end up at 0.
Okay, so Gemara, yeah.
Does it come from the Torah? The thing about the Kohen?
Over 3 years old is from the Torah, and under 3 years old is one opinion based on the pasuk in Yecheskel.
And the other stuff that Ezekiel says that we don't follow.
That because it has to be reinterpreted. It has to be reinterpreted. The Gemara reinterprets the verse where you put the commas and how you translate it. Yeah. Okay, the Gemara asks, why do you have to say that it's talking about under 3 years old? Say that it's following Rab Shimon ben Yochai. And we're talking about that over 3 years old, and comes along Rabbi Yehuda and says that a convert is not allowed to marry a mamzeres. The convert, even if she was converted over after she was 3. Why do you have to tell me that it's not like Rav Shimon ben Yochai? Like, what's forcing you to do that? To say that we're following that view. It says Imkein mitzida tavra. There's a problem with that. On the side, tavra means it breaks it. Why? Because if you read further, it says if you would say that it's only from 3 years old and on, that's when she's not allowed to marry a Kohen. But if she would be under 3 years old, that she would be allowed to marry a Kohen if we would be following this view. Then asura lavi zebazeh. Then she would not be allowed to marry a mamzeres. In other words, according to the Tanakama, who is allowed to marry the mamzeres? Who's allowed to marry the mamzer is only someone that doesn't come into the congregation of Kayanim, which means the convert can marry. But if it's under 3 years old, which she can come into the congregation of Kayanim, she's not allowed to marry the Kayan. But it's not true, because according to Rav Shimon ben Yochai, she is allowed to marry the Kayan, but she's also allowed to marry a mamzer. So it doesn't come out that it doesn't come out perfect. So we have to say that we're talking about even under 3 years old, which over there you're allowed to marry the but where the Tanakama holds you're allowed to marry the mamzer, and Rabbi Yehuda says no. Is this really a rule that anyone that's not allowed to marry a Kohen is allowed to marry a mamzer? What are you talking about? What about a widow, a divorcee, a halala, or a zayna? They're not allowed to marry a mamzer. That's a problem. The Sue, and also her mutter, if they would be permissible to marry a Kohen, Asr. So then it's prohibited to marry the mamzer, but it's not true. A convert is allowed to marry a kohenes. Kahal kahuna doesn't just mean a Kohen; it also means a female Kohen. So that means a convert can marry a kohenes, and can also marry a mamzeres. So it doesn't match. You have 2 problems here. First of all, not everyone that can't marry a Kohen is allowed to marry a mamzeres, and also someone that's allowed to marry a Kohen is allowed to marry a mamzeres. Someone that's allowed to marry a Kohenes is allowed to marry a mamzeres. Ella marav nasan barish yachik tamar. Kol shekayin asalises bitai. Anyone that a Kohen is not allowed to marry the daughter. I think we have to stop.
Oh, just got
we won't end this till the bottom of the page. Okay, we'll continue to B'ez Hashem tomorrow. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
We'll just put a mark down over here.
Okay,
Have a good day.
have a good day.
No, I think we're okay.
Okay.
Well, we don't have to. We'll learn tomorrow.
Wait a minute, that was a trick question. Of course we're not tonight. Of course.
This year.
Oh, okay.
How was Shalom this morning?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah.
Russell's yard
Shalom
side,
is great.
everybody. Oh, Russell's yard side today.
That's what I just said.
Sure, everybody knew that.
Hey, Shalom.
Thank you for coming.
Okay. Shukayach. Very good. See you tomorrow.
Stop recording.